This week on Storyboard, we speak to Sara Robertson Global VP Product Engineering at Xaxis about the usage of artificial intelligence technology in advertising. And we also speak to Ali Harris-Sher, VP Marketing Britannia, about the revamp of their brand Bourbon and the launch of their new Friendly Matches campaign with Malika Dua and Abish Matthew. Hello and welcome to Storyboard. This is Shibani Gharat. The usage of AI in online marketing today is widespread and businesses are already vigorously moving ahead with the adoption of AI technology. We speak to Sara Robertson, Global VP Product Engineering at Xaxis, about how the usage of AI in advertising will lead the way forward for many brands. She says that we can certainly wait and look out for other ad industry trends over the next 5 years, but AI is what we should speak about now. Let's take a look at this chat.
Hello, Sara, and thank you for talking to us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So to begin with, when you hear AI and creativity and AI and advertising, is it real? Is it something we should worry about today or 5 years from now? Why are we having this conversation today?
I think AI is definitely something we should all be talking about today.
Okay.
There's certainly other technologies we can wait 5 years to talk about, like sentient chatbots.
Right.
But AI has been in use in advertising for years already in platforms we're familiar with, like Google. It's in the core of their platform. But what's happening now is that technologies in the AI and machine learning space are becoming more accessible to small businesses and small engineering teams, and clients and brands are able to take advantage of it. You don't need a 200-person engineering team to see real results with these technologies anymore.
So demystify that for me. Tell me about a campaign which essentially uses AI and helped a brand, such as the brands you're talking about, achieve a business objective. So talk to me about that.
Sure. So I've applied AI in a couple of different ways. The first and easiest thing that we started doing was using generic algorithms to solve for common outcomes. CPC, CPA, CTR, things that everyone's comfortable with. So that was really just trying to hit goals, keep pacing, things like that. And then what we discovered was we could apply that same technique to a custom algorithm. So now we're optimizing towards a goal that is unique to a client's business.
Right.
So what we've learned is most clients judge the success of their advertising spend in a unique way to their business. They have some certain measurement that they use. And as soon as they started sharing those measurements with us, we were able to tune our algorithms to achieve those goals instead of generic ad tech goals like CPC.
Right.
Which hopefully is starting to translate into a real return on investment for those advertising dollars. So an example of a standard outcome being achieved is we had a client who had a CPA goal and they also had a viewability requirement. So we used a combination of an algorithm for CPA, an algorithm for viewability, cut their CPA spend in half and increase their viewability by 20%. Right. So that was a simple one.
Yep.
An example of a custom algorithm achieving a business outcome. I have one that went live a couple of weeks ago where the client had
So which is the client? Which is the client? Can you talk about the client?
It's a large automotive client.
Right.
So they're trying to drive consumers to test drives and to build a car online and to come into the showroom, things like that. So they had a lot of different touch points with a customer. Customer could interact with them in, let's say, 10 different ways.
Right.
And each of those is considered a conversion, but certain conversions were more likely to lead to a sale than other ones.
Right.
So what we started doing was, instead of just optimizing towards conversions generally, we weighted which ones were more valuable and started trying to push towards the valuable ones and understanding the funnel through that process, which is really fun. There's a lot of math involved, and there's a lot of data that feeds that whole process.
So how do you measure this outcome now? Now you've created this for this auto company. How do you measure? Because obviously now when you go so granular into the process, the ability to measure also improves. So how do you measure the outcome?
Absolutely. So they were all, thankfully, I was lucky, they were already measuring this outcome internally with a series of spreadsheets that tallied up a score that was the score of their advertising campaign health. So what they saw was once we launched our custom algorithm, that score went higher than it ever had before. That was a unique case where we had a really savvy client, but my hope is that more businesses are going to start thinking about measuring the health of their ad spend in a similar way. Like, how can you quantify what impact it's having on your business? Let me know how you quantify that, and then we can use AI to achieve that outcome instead of standard things we're used to. CTR is meaningless if all of those clicks bounce immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, what kind of a client do you need who will sign on to your kind of solution? Because it's not just any mom and pop shop which can sign on. It's got to be an evolved, savvy client who understands the data, has data in some organized form. Everybody's got data, but they have it in an organized form. So what is the kind of client education you need?
So personally, I don't care if the data is in an organized form. I have data scientists that can clean it up and organize it for you. But you're right, we're still in the emerging phases of this technology being applied, so a larger, savvier client with loftier goals is a better candidate for an experimental solution like this. But my hope is that as I get more and more examples of how this works for big clients, we'll start to be able to apply it to smaller budgets as well. I got this question earlier today, and my answer was, for a small client, start with the standard outcomes. So optimize towards viewability, CPC, CTR, and over time, that advertiser will start to learn which of those metrics is really valuable to them, and then we can graduate to a custom algorithm type of solution.
When you said this is still in an experimental phase, it goes back to my first question. Should we worry about it today, or should we talk about this 5 years from now?
When I say experimental, I mean that it hasn't become cookie cutter yet.
Right.
Like, this is still cutting edge, but I don't think it's going to be cutting edge for long. So I think that the advertisers who are willing to educate themselves as to what's available and take advantage of it are going to have a competitive advantage over others who are going to wait 5 years. People that are still chasing CTR aren't going to benefit as much as those that are chasing
business outcomes,
sales of cars,
yeah, sure.
Right?
So give me a few more examples of work that you've done and you like, and you think has worked for your client.
Sure. One of my favorites was an aviation client, and we learned over time that there was a seasonality to when tickets were being sold. So we used that as an insight that was unique to that client. But then we started to discover that combinations of device, browser, time of day, location tended to lead towards a conversion better. So for example, if you're shopping for airfare, you might browse it on your phone first to find what you want to buy, but you'll end up doing the checkout later on a different device where you could feel comfortable putting in credit card information.
Sure.
So that type of insight let us describe the funnel of the touch points with a customer and then optimize towards getting them to that endpoint. So it's really unique. Every business is special, and what we need to start doing is designing strategies that are unique to a business and not strategies that are generic to an industry.
So that suggests automatically you're going to be kind of thick on the ground, as a team. in your sales efforts and so on. So how do you, that's contrary to what most people are saying, you know, have a fewer number of people and better people. But what you suggest, if it's tailor-made solutions as opposed to custom solutions.
So I think that if you want a generic solution that doesn't have a human service element, then you can use any of the big platforms, and you can use a self-serve, point and click, run your budget and call it a day, which will be fine for the majority of people.
Right.
But I think that if you really want to make your ad dollars mean something, you need to think about it in a different way. I don't think that AI is supposed to replace humans. I think that it's supposed to augment and empower them to make more intelligent decisions. So if we automate away the tedious work, we enable people to start thinking more strategically, designing more bespoke solutions.
So tell me, if there were 5 categories that you say, they were your dream list of categories that you would like to work for. Tell me which of those 5 categories, where you think you and your company can make the maximum impact on outcomes.
I think that businesses who are frustrated with their current advertising spend and don't feel like they understand where the value is would benefit a lot from targeting a different outcome. So I wouldn't feel good about my advertising dollars if I was just measuring a CTR and I had no idea if that translated into sales of my product.
Right.
Versus if I started to measure the gap between someone clicking and someone buying.
Or not buying.
Or not buying, and see that gap get smaller or wider, I would start to feel like my ad dollars were doing something to impact the actual goal of my business.
So tell me, do you think you could sell soap or toothpaste better using AI?
So brand affinity via AI is definitely a challenge because it's harder to measure the outcome. It's harder to measure the customer's action. And the actions are definitely required for machine learning to improve itself and improve its predictions. I have some experiments in place to solve this via surveys, brand lift studies, things like that. But it's still a challenge because the feedback loop is slow, right? You get a small sample set and you get it a long time after the ad was served. I think solving that problem is going to take a lot of smart people thinking creatively and being willing to experiment with new techniques. So we can't just keep on doing what we've always done. We need to try new things, and I think brands are the most likely to benefit from this in the long run.
Right. So you're in India now. What are your objectives of this India trip?
So I'm here visiting 2 of the Xaxis offices, and I'm giving a talk called AI 101 to kind of teach people that it's not magic and what the basics are. And I'm also kicking off custom algorithm development out of the markets. So you were talking about how to support an offering like this and whether you need more people. Right now, most of the custom algorithm development is happening from my engineering team based in New York, but that won't scale globally to all of our markets and all of our traders on the ground. What I need to do is start training traders in local markets in how to write basic code and how to understand how to write their own algorithms, taking advantage of systems and platforms that we've built, and getting people comfortable with this concept. I think educating yourself in the subject of AI is the most important thing you can do to be competitive and not get left behind by this incredible emerging technology.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and all the best for your visit to India.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side of this break, we catch up with Ali Harris-Sher, VP Marketing Britannia, about the launch of their new Friendly Matches campaign and the need to revamp their brand Bourbon.